Hello everyone, welcome back. So our goal for this lecture is going to be creating a REST endpoint, and we will be utilizing the Spring framework in order to achieve this. The IDE we are going to use is STS, Spring Toolsheet. So let's start. So I'm opening the Spring Toolsheet IDE and let me create a new project, and I'm creating a Spring Starter project. So let me leave all the configurations as default. Make sure that the build type is Maven and the name of the project is whatever you desire it to be. So I am giving hello world rest example. And then as part of dependencies, we need to choose the Spring Web. In order to create a Spring Web application, we need to add the Spring Starter Web dependency. And then I'm clicking on finish. And at the right bottom of STS, we could see the loading icon and the percentage of load that has happened. This will actually create the project for us and it will add the dependencies, download the required jars, and configure the Spring project for us. After the loading is done, in the package explorer towards your left of the screen, you will see the project name getting displayed, which is Hello World REST example. So we have the pom.xml file, which has the list of dependencies, the project name, the build type, everything defined in it. If you want to change any, for example, let's say we are going to be using Gradle as the build tool for our project, then we could change the build tool configuration in the pom.xml file. If you want some other dependencies to be added, then that also can be achieved using the pom.xml by adding the values in the dependencies list. So let us start with the coding part. So as a Spring Boot project, we have the source main/java folder, which is this package inside which we will be having our code. And we have the resources folder inside which we will have the static files, the UI templates, and the properties files. And any static content, for example, a logo of the site or any images that is going to be rendered, or for example, if you have a static JSON or a constant data, all those things will be placed in the static folder. And then we have this package, demo package, inside which we have a hello world rest example application.java file. When you open this Java file, you will see that it has the Spring Boot application annotation. So this annotation defines three things. When we go inside the annotation, we will be able to see those major three annotations, which is nothing but the enable auto configuration, which makes the configuration for the project. And then we have the component scan, which will scan for all the component services, models, entities in the project and configures those things. And then we have the Spring Boot configuration. So this defines that this hello world rest example application.java class file is a configuration. So we can see inside the Spring Boot configuration annotation that it is defined as a configuration. So let us begin with our coding part. So we are not going to edit anything in this file. Let us start by running the application, and we will be running it as a Spring Boot app. So we have our project started successfully and it is running in the port 8080. So in the browser, if I navigate to localhost 8080, we will see that it gives a white label error because we have not defined any route or any path in the application server. So right now for that, let us start by creating a controller. So controller is nothing but it is the definition for a route in a Spring Boot application. So I'm going to create a package and I will name it com.example.java.controllers. So inside this, I'm going to create a class file and I'm going to name it hello world controller. All other configurations are going to be left default. So we have an empty class file. So in order to make this controller as a REST API, we need to give at REST controller annotation. So what this at rest controller annotation does is it defines this hello world component. I mean, it defines this hello world class as a component and makes it a controller component. When we hover on this annotation, we could see it has the controller annotation within itself and it has the response body annotation as well, which states that this is going to be a REST endpoint. So inside this class file, we have to define the path right now. There are two ways that we can define the path. One is, for example, we are going to have the URL as directly showing us something like this hello. Then in that case, we can directly give a get mapping annotation. And this annotations define that the function below this is going to be having a get API response. So we are going to define a function here. And the response type is going to be string as of now. We will see how to send JSON as response in some time. So we have to restart the application in order to get this endpoint right now. So we haven't defined any path as of now. So let us see how our application responds. So still we don't have anything in this path. Let me remove that and you could see still we have this error page. So what could be the possible issue right now? So we have defined this Spring Boot application inside demo package and we have the java.controller package outside of demo package. So this is causing the issue right now. So I'm going to refactor the package name and make it com.example.demo.controller. So what will happen is it will actually not scan this package since it is outside of the package in which this Spring Boot application is available. So let me refresh the project. And now we will have this package available inside this Spring Boot application package. So right now, if I restart the application and then we try to hit this endpoint, it will give the message hello world for us. So we have created a successful hello world response from a REST endpoint. So let us go into the class file. We will create post endpoint as well, that we have to give the post mapping annotation. It's going to respond with a string hello world post endpoint. It's going to return post hello world message. Then we will have a put mapping, the same message here as well. And we will have a delete mapping as well. Going to change the responses. Okay. So right now we have these messages here. So every endpoint is going to have the text get post put delete in front of the response hello world. So these are the strings that are going to be responded. Let us check how we can hit those endpoints now. So when I try to hit localhost, it just gives me hello world and we haven't defined any path. So what do we do now? So we will define a basic, I mean the base path for this entire controller. So for that, we can do the path definition in the controller class. I'm going to give it a sample. So now we restart the application. We will see when we try to hit localhost, we will get a white label error page again. Since we have defined the path as sample, now we have the get endpoint being hit. How do we hit the post, put, and delete endpoints? We won't be able to achieve that right now, right? So in order to do that, what we are going to achieve is we are going to use a tool known as Postman. So Postman is a REST API testing tool which gives us the ability to hit the APIs with sample data and test the output and analyze the data in the headers. So we are going to create a new HTTP request by clicking on this new icon here. And we are going to define the path localhost colon 8080, which is our server path, and then the controller path. And let's try to make a get request now. So when I try to hit the get request, what is the response we get? Could not get response. Why is that? It says OpenSSL. Since we are hitting as HTTPS, we are getting this error. So let me remove the yes and we will hit through HTTP. Now we should see the success. So it says get hello world as a response, and in the header we could see it has a status code of 200. Now let us change the request to post. And when we hit post, we have the post hello world message. And when we change to post, we could see we have some options here in order to add data and send it to our code. So I'm going to add a data name, the dev caps here, and we will be sending this data to this post request. So let us try to make it put, and we see put response here. And then we will make a delete request, and we see it has hit the delete request. But what you could observe is always the URL is same, only the method type has changed. Similarly, what we saw earlier, when we check the network panel and when we hit a URL, we used to have this XHR, right, request. So here you could see we are getting a string response, and hence it is not a XHR response. So let us try to make this a XHR response right now in order to make this a actual JSON REST API. So in order to achieve that, we have to define the type of response as text slash JSON. Right now, we could see the request header is having the type as text slash HTML, and hence we did not see the data in fetch slash etc. So let me make this code respond a JSON object. So in order to do that, we are going to create a data transfer object. It is nothing but a basic Java object. First, let's create the package for holding it. We will name it DTO, which stands for data transfer object. And inside that, we will create a class and name it hello world response DTO. And inside this DTO, we will define the annotation. Nothing. Actually, no annotation is needed for this. We can directly give the variables inside it. So we will define status, and it should be a string. And then we will define the message, which will be string. And then we will define the number type, which could be the status code. So our sample data is going, hello world response DTO is going to hold these data. So we need to create the controllers for this. So in order to easily create the controller, we can go to the source by right clicking and generate get a setters, select all, generate. And then we will create source constructor. We will, hence we have created a constructor. We can use this constructor instead of the setters or to create the object. Now let us go to the controller back, and in the controller I'm going to create the instance of this object. So what are going to be the responses? String, string, and then number. So we will have the first string, which is get success, the second string, which is going to be hello world message, and the third string, which is gonna be 200. Then we will respond back with this object. So we can't directly respond the object. So we will use the response entity from the Spring framework. And in the generics, we will define the class name. And the same has to be responded as response entity dot okay, and the body data that has to be passed, which is folder. This object we are going to pass. So now let us try to hit the get endpoint of this request. Now we have a JSON response, and you could see the formatting has happened already because I have a plugin installed in my browser. And now when I click on XHR and try to hit the request again, still you could see we don't have the response in XHR. Why is that? Still, we see that the request header is requesting for HTML response, and hence we don't have a XHR response. But the response type that you could see here is application/JSON, and the content which you see has message, the status, and the status code that we have sent. Similarly, we can do the same for the post request. And we are also doing the same for the other requests. So let us test the request in the Postman right now. So we have delete success. We have an error message here. What is this? Actually, we don't have a patch endpoint defined. Hence, we have this method not allowed error, and this path is not defined. Let's do a put request. We have the success, and when we do a post, we have the post success. Hence, all our endpoints are ready. So in this video, we just saw how to create a REST endpoint, and we have also tested the endpoints in Postman. Still, we don't see that how this data can be utilized in our REST endpoint. We will see that in our next video. Thanks for watching.